Listen closely, because this truth will decide whether your love is respected or dismissed. Love, when shown at the wrong time, is not love, it is weakness. The timing of your affection, the very moment you choose to reveal it, will determine how it is received, how it is remembered, and how much power it holds. A woman does not only measure what you give her, but when you give it. Too early and it feels desperate, too constant and it loses its weight, too late and it turns into regret. But when you strike with precision, when you choose your moment with discipline, your love carries the force of thunder. Do not think of timing as something accidental. Timing is power because human hearts are ruled by anticipation, by rhythm, by the longing that builds in absence. A woman values affection most when it appears as if it has been earned, when it comes after silence, when it comes after restraint. To shower her every day with unmeasured words is to dull their meaning. But to wait, to choose carefully, to allow space between gestures, that creates suspense, that breeds curiosity, and curiosity is the soil where desire grows. Consider this when the seasons change. Spring is sweet because winter was long. The warmth of the sun is cherished only after the cold. In the same way, a woman treasures affection that arrives after discipline. If you give her warmth without pause, she no longer feels its heat. The value of love is determined by scarcity, by the fact that it is not always available, but chosen deliberately. This does not mean withholding endlessly. It means being strategic. Timing is not about delay for the sake of cruelty, but about giving affection at the precise moment when it will leave the greatest impact. When she feels uncertain, when she doubts, when she wonders if you are too distant. Then, with a single act of care, a single touch, a single word, you transform doubt into devotion. That is the art of power, to turn one gesture into something unforgettable. A man who loves without timing is a man who spends gold like sand. Soon it is gone and no one remembers its shine. But a man who waits, who studies the moment, who chooses when to give, his gold is never forgotten because every coin is rare, every act carries meaning. A woman remembers not the countless empty compliments, but the single word spoken when she most needed it, when it cut through silence like fire in the dark. Ask yourself, do you wish to be predictable, or do you wish to be unforgettable? Predictability is the enemy of passion. If she knows you will flood her with affection every hour, then it becomes background noise. But if she never knows when you will show love, if it comes like lightning, unexpected, striking, powerful, then she will remain attentive, always wondering, always waiting. That is timing. That is power. Many men think that showing love constantly is proof of loyalty. In truth, it is proof of fear. Fear that if they stop, they will be forgotten. But loyalty is not proved in endless repetition. Loyalty is proved in presence when it matters. A woman does not need to hear, "I love you," 20 times a day. She needs to hear it when her heart is doubtful, when she questions herself, when she stands in silence. She needs to feel it when the world ignores her. That is when the words pierce her soul. Not because you said them often, but because you said them at the right time. Timing also requires patience, and patience requires strength. Weak men cannot wait. They rush to give everything because they fear losing. Strong men wait because they understand that love given too quickly is not respected. Think of the hunter who releases his arrow too soon. The prey escapes, and the effort is wasted, but the hunter who waits for the perfect moment strikes once, and the victory is his. Your affection is your arrow. Do not waste it. Do not fire it endlessly, hoping one will land. Hold it, sharpen it, wait until the moment is undeniable, and then release. The impact will be so deep it cannot be erased. That is how you must show love, not endlessly, but strategically, not weakly, but with precision. Timing is also about contrast. Tenderness is sweetest when it follows strength. Affection means the most when it interrupts discipline. If you are always soft, always available, your love becomes ordinary. But if you are strong, firm, controlled, then when you choose to soften, when you choose to let your guard fall, that single moment becomes monumental. She sees the difference. She feels the weight of the contrast. It is not what you always do. It is what you rarely do that carries the most force. Understand this: absence creates space, and space creates hunger. If you give no space, there is no hunger, only boredom. But if you let silence breathe, if you step back, if you let her miss the warmth of your affection, then, when you give it, it rushes into the void like water to a desert. Timing is not simply about when you act, it is about when you hold back. Your restraint makes your affection meaningful. Your discipline makes your tenderness powerful. If you wish to be remembered, if you wish your love to echo in her mind, then guard it carefully. Do not scatter it like seeds on stone. Plant it where it will grow. Choose your words, your touches, your gestures, and choose them when her heart is open to receive them. That is the secret. That is the difference between being overlooked and being unforgettable. There is a truth that most men fail to understand: the more you give without measure, the less value it holds. Affection, when poured without restraint, ceases to inspire gratitude. It begins to breed indifference, even contempt. Respect is not won by drowning a woman in constant gestures, constant praise, constant attention. Respect is born from measured affection, from control, from the balance between presence and absence, between giving and withholding. A woman does not admire the man who kneels endlessly before her, offering love like a beggar offers coins. She admires the man who knows his worth, the man who loves her without losing himself. Excess affection is not strength, it is surrender. It is the declaration that you place her above your own value, above your own dignity. And once she senses that imbalance, once she feels that she is worshipped instead of respected, she cannot help but lose a measure of regard for you. Respect is a mirror. If you want hers, you must first show it to yourself. A man who gives too much, too often, tells the world he does not value his own time, his own words, his own attention. He spends them carelessly, hoping they will be enough. But a man who measures, who offers love with precision, shows that his affection is rare, considered valuable. She cannot take it lightly, because he does not give it lightly. Consider the banquet table. A feast laid out every hour of every day loses all delight. The finest wine, if drunk without pause, turns bitter on the tongue. But when you fast, when you wait, when you finally taste again, the flavor is exquisite, unforgettable. Love is no different. When affection is constant, it becomes bland. When it is measured, it becomes a luxury. And what is rare is respected. Understand this: respect is the foundation upon which desire is built. A woman can only desire the man she admires. If she admires your strength, your discipline, your ability to hold back when others would surrender, then your love strikes her heart with power. But if you give endlessly, if you speak sweetly without pause, she no longer sees strength in you. She sees need, and need kills admiration. Respect above excess means you do not offer affection as a bribe. You do not give love in exchange for validation, approval, or security. You give love as a sovereign act, a choice that comes from confidence. She must know that you are capable of walking alone, that your affection is not a chain that binds you to her feet. Only then will she respect it. Only then will she hold it as something precious. Too many men confuse attention with affection. They think that by constantly being present, constantly available, constantly saying yes, they are proving their devotion. In truth, they are proving their weakness. A woman does not respect the man who abandons his mission, his focus, his discipline, simply to orbit around her. She respects the man who remains steady in his path, who loves her deeply yet never loses his direction. Respect above excess is the art of giving without becoming consumed. When you show love, let it come from a place of control, not desperation. When you speak affection, let it be deliberate, not habitual. When you show care, let it be powerful, not routine. Every word, every gesture should carry weight because it is not wasted. Look closely at human nature. We respect what is earned, not what is handed to us without cost. A crown placed freely on a man's head inspires no reverence. But a crown won through battle, through discipline, through strength, commands awe. A woman is no different. She respects your love when it is tied to your strength, your discipline, your self-respect. She does not respect it when it is thrown endlessly at her feet. Excess is the enemy of value. The river that floods without control destroys the land. But the river that is channeled, measured, directed, its waters bring life, growth, abundance. Your affection must be the same. Too much uncontrolled, and it drowns her desire. Measured, controlled, and it nourishes her admiration, her loyalty, her respect. Ask yourself this: do you want her to see you as a man who cannot control himself, or as a man who governs his actions with discipline? A woman respects the one who controls his words, his gestures, his emotions. She sees strength in restraint, and strength is what compels her loyalty. When you love her with measure, she feels secure, because she knows your love is not built on need. It is built on choice. There is also danger in trying to replace respect with excess. A man who feels insecure often overcompensates. He thinks that more flowers, more words, more gifts, more attention will fill the gap. But each time he adds another layer, the emptiness is revealed more clearly. What he thinks will secure her only pushes her further away. For love without respect is hollow, and respect cannot be bought with excess. If you truly want her to hold your love in high regard, then guard it as carefully as you guard your honor. Do not hand it out as though it costs nothing. She must see that your affection is not for everyone, not for anyone, but chosen for her. She must see that your respect for yourself is the very reason your love for her has value. Love loses its force when it becomes routine. What was once a spark turns into background noise when it is repeated without thought, without purpose. A woman does not long for what she already knows she will receive at every hour of every day. She longs for what feels intentional, chosen, and rare. That is why love must be given as a gift, not as a habit. Habit dulls the mind. It strips the weight from words and the value from actions. Imagine hearing the same melody every morning, every moment. At first, it moves the soul. After a time, it becomes only sound. Love, when reduced to routine, meets the same fate. The daily repetition of "I love you," without depth, the automatic gesture, the predictable act, none of it inspires, none of it awakens her heart. It is not absence of love that kills desire. It is the suffocation of habit. A gift, however, carries power. A gift is deliberate. It is not expected, it is not routine, and that is why it shakes the heart when it arrives. A woman does not measure the gift by its size but by its intent. The timing, the thought, the effort, these are the things that separate a true gesture from empty habit. When you make your love into a gift, you transform it into something she cannot take for granted. To give love as a gift means you hold it with weight yourself. You do not scatter it carelessly, you do not repeat it without thought. You choose the moment, you choose the action, you choose the words. And because you choose, because you withhold at times, she knows it matters. She knows it is not routine. That is what makes her listen. That is what makes her remember. Many men give love as a reflex. They believe repetition equals security. They hope that if they never stop reminding her, she will never stop feeling. But love that comes without thought is not reassurance, it is noise. A woman does not want a reflex. She wants meaning. She wants to feel that every word, every gesture, comes from a man who sees her, who thinks, who decides. Think of the difference between a man who says, "I love you," 10 times a day and the man who says it once when she doubts, when she feels unseen, when silence presses on her. The first man has given her habit, the second man has given her a gift. She will forget the endless repetition, but she will never forget the one phrase that lifted her when she needed it most. Love as a gift is also tied to rarity. What is common loses value. What is scarce becomes treasure. Gold is precious not because it is the strongest metal, but because it is rare. So too with affection. When it is routine, it is common, and the human mind quickly dismisses the common. But when affection is given sparingly at the right time, it becomes unforgettable. Do not confuse rarity with neglect. Neglect is the absence of care. Rarity is the sharpening of care. It is not that you give less. It is that you give with intent. When she feels you could give more but you hold back, she senses discipline. And when you finally do give, she senses gravity. Neglect kills bonds, but measured affection strengthens them. A woman wants to feel chosen, not managed. She does not want to be fed love as though it were a daily chore, like sweeping the floor or turning a key. She wants to feel that your affection springs from decision, from attention, from recognition of her unique place in your life. Habit is careless, gifting love is conscious, and every person longs to be seen with consciousness. There is also a deeper truth here. When love is treated as a habit, it weakens the man as well. He begins to act not from strength but from fear, from the belief that without constant gestures, he will lose her. But when love is treated as a gift, it strengthens him. He gives not out of fear but out of power, out of choice. And a woman respects the man who acts from choice, never the one who acts from desperation. Understand that the rhythm of love must contain silence, just as music requires pauses between notes. Without silence, there is only noise. Without restraint, there is only habit. The silence makes the sound meaningful. The restraint makes the gesture powerful. A man who embraces this truth will never be forgotten. For when he finally speaks, when he finally acts, the moment will strike with force. To give love as a gift also means you do not let it become cheapened by constant display. You protect it. You treat it as something valuable. You know that if it is too common, it will no longer be seen. So you guard it, you preserve it, and when you reveal it, it carries the weight of something rare. That is how you transform affection into power. A woman who receives habit grows numb. A woman who receives gifts of love, rare, deliberate, powerful, remains awakened. Her admiration grows, her respect deepens, her desire stays alive. Not because you gave her more, but because you gave her less with greater meaning. This is the paradox of love. Abundance breeds boredom. Rarity breeds value. A woman does not admire tenderness that springs from weakness. Softness that is constant, that is given without backbone, becomes suffocating. She respects tenderness only when it comes from strength, when she knows that behind the hand that caresses is a will that cannot be bent. Love that is born from fear does not inspire her. Love that comes from power, from discipline, from mastery of self, that is the love that captivates her. Strength is the foundation. Without it, tenderness collapses into fragility. A man who gives affection because he is afraid to lose her is not showing love, he is begging for security. She sees the difference. She feels the trembling behind his words, the desperation behind his acts, and once she senses it, her respect begins to slip away. But a man who stands firm, who commands himself, who has direction and resolve, when he chooses to be tender, she feels the weight of it, because she knows he is not driven by fear, but by choice. The world teaches many men to believe that endless softness will win devotion. They think that yielding at every turn, pleasing at every moment, sacrificing strength for comfort will make her love deeper. In truth, it makes her restless. A woman admires a man who can hold firm against the winds of life, who does not bend at every demand, who shows that his love is not weakness disguised as devotion. She wants to feel that his affection comes from a place of command, that his embrace is both a shelter and a fortress. Strength first means you know who you are, what you stand for, what you pursue. You do not abandon your mission to chase her approval. You do not discard your discipline to win her attention. When she sees that your life has a spine, when she sees that you carry weight with dignity, she feels secure in your presence. Tenderness from such a man is not ordinary. It is rare and therefore powerful. When strength leads, tenderness does not diminish you. It magnifies you. The man who is strong enough to rule himself is the only man whose softness carries impact, because she knows it is not weakness pretending to be love, but power choosing to be gentle. When you protect, when you guide, when you hold her with steadiness, your affection becomes a gift she trusts. She sees that you are not consumed by emotion, but master of it. Imagine two rivers. One is wild, overflowing, spilling into every field, destroying what it touches. The other is strong, directed, guided by stone banks that give it shape and purpose. Which river nourishes the land? Not the one without control. In the same way, tenderness that is ungoverned becomes destructive. Tenderness that flows from strength becomes life-giving. A woman feels safest, most alive, when your affection comes with boundaries, with direction, with power behind it. Strength first means you are not moved by every doubt, every silence, every test. She will test you. Do not doubt it. She will challenge your patience, question your resolve, measure your discipline. Not because she wishes to destroy you, but because she wishes to know if you are truly strong. If your tenderness is built only on her approval, it will crumble. But if it is built on your foundation of strength, it will endure, and she will respect you all the more because of it. Tenderness second means you do not lead with softness. You lead with firmness, with command, with purpose. When she sees your life anchored, when she feels your will unshaken, then she can finally surrender to your tenderness without fear, because she knows it is not weakness, it is choice, and the human heart always admires choice over compulsion. Strength does not mean cruelty. It does not mean coldness. It means authority over yourself, authority over your actions, authority over your emotions. A man who is enslaved by his feelings cannot lead. A man who controls his feelings can love with force. She wants to feel that your affection is not chaos but order, not accident but intention. That is what gives her security. That is what compels her admiration. Consider this truth. A man who is only strong without tenderness inspires fear but not closeness. A man who is only tender without strength inspires comfort but not respect. But the man who combines both, the man who builds on strength, then reveals tenderness. He commands both respect and love. He becomes unforgettable because he gives her what few can, the safety of strength and the sweetness of affection. Do not be deceived into thinking that love alone is enough. Love without strength turns hollow. It becomes a mask, and masks are always torn away. When she looks at you, she must see the man who can stand alone, who does not need her to complete him but chooses her to walk beside him. Then, when you show her tenderness, it strikes her soul with depth, because she knows it is not the tenderness of a beggar. It is the tenderness of a king. Strength first means you never lose yourself in pursuit of her. Tenderness second means you give her what others cannot, love rooted in discipline, affection built on power, care that flows from stability. A woman cannot truly love a man she does not respect, and she cannot respect a man who has no strength. But when strength is undeniable, every tender act becomes a treasure. There is a hidden language more powerful than endless speech, and it is silence. Many men believe that to win devotion, they must speak constantly, they must declare love at every chance, they must fill every quiet space with words of reassurance. But the truth is this: when you always speak, your words lose weight. When you always explain, always promise, always confess, your voice becomes background noise. Silence, when mastered, carries a force no words can match. A woman listens not only to what you say, but to what you withhold. She feels not only the rhythm of your voice, but the gravity of your pauses. Silence, when used with intent, makes every word you do speak echo louder. Imagine the difference between a man who says, "I love you," 10 times in an hour, and the man who says nothing for days, then speaks it once in a moment of deep connection. Which one will she remember? Not the constant repetition, but the rare word framed by silence. Silence is respect. It shows discipline, self-control, and strength. It proves that you do not fear emptiness, that you do not rush to fill every gap out of insecurity. Weak men talk endlessly because they are afraid of being forgotten. Strong men know that their presence, even in quiet, is felt. A woman does not only admire the man who speaks, she admires the man who knows when not to. Words can be cheap. They can be said without thought, without cost, without truth. But silence cannot be faked. Silence demands patience, demands restraint, demands confidence. When you are silent, you risk being misunderstood, but you also gain the power of mystery. Mystery compels attention. It makes her lean forward, wonder, seek. And when finally you break the silence, when you decide to speak, your words arrive with the force of a storm. Consider this: music is not only made of notes, it is made of pauses, of rests, of spaces between sound. Without silence, music is chaos. In the same way, without silence, love becomes noise. A woman does not want noise. She wants rhythm, she wants meaning, she wants balance. Silence gives love its shape. It sharpens your words so they cut deeper. It shapes your gestures so they stand taller. When you remain silent at the right moment, you show mastery over yourself. You show that you are not controlled by emotion, that you do not need to beg or prove. You allow her to sit with her thoughts, her doubts, her questions. And when you finally choose to speak, your voice answers those doubts with authority. She respects the man who can hold his tongue as much as the man who can move mountains with it. Do not mistake silence for absence. Silence is not neglect. Silence is strategy. It is the art of creating space so that your presence can be felt more strongly. Too many men fear silence, so they speak endlessly, pouring out words that soon lose meaning. But silence sharpens presence. It creates longing. It makes her wonder what you are thinking, what you are feeling, what you will say next. That curiosity binds her to you more than constant chatter ever could. Silence is also a mirror. In the quiet, she will hear her own thoughts louder. She will reflect on her own feelings. She will weigh her own emotions. And in that space, she will feel the absence of your words like an empty throne waiting to be filled. When you finally choose to break that silence, you do so as a ruler returning to his seat, commanding attention simply by being there. A woman does not crave endless reassurance. She craves meaning. She wants to feel that when you speak, it is because you mean it, not because you fear losing her. The man who uses silence wisely proves that he is not desperate for validation. He proves that his words are valuable because they are rare. She listens more carefully, she remembers more vividly, because she knows you do not waste speech. Think of the courtroom. The judge does not speak constantly. He listens, he waits, he weighs the silence. And when he finally delivers words, they carry the weight of authority. That is how you must be with your affection. Do not hand it out in every moment. Do not scatter it like dust in the air. Guard it. Let silence build tension. Then, when you reveal your heart, it is like a verdict, decisive, commanding, impossible to ignore. Silence is not only about withholding words, it is also about presence without speech. Sitting in quiet strength beside her, without the need to fill the air, communicates more than any sentence could. Your calm becomes her calm. Your steadiness becomes her anchor. She feels your love not in constant explanations, but in the unshaken energy you carry in silence. A man who knows how to wield silence is never forgotten. His love feels deliberate. His words feel rare and golden. His presence feels solid, not scattered. And a woman, when she looks at him, sees not a man who drowns her in sound, but one who makes her listen, who makes her wait, who makes her lean forward in anticipation. That is power. That is respect. That is the hidden strength of silence. There are times when love, no matter how carefully spoken or gracefully shown, feels ordinary. And then there are moments when love carries the weight of triumph, when it strikes with the force of destiny. These are the moments of victory. A woman does not simply admire the man who loves her endlessly. She admires the man who chooses the right time to show that love, the man who ties his affection to his triumphs, to his strength, to his ability to conquer. Love is most powerful when it is shown not in defeat, not in weakness, but in victory. Victory does not always mean conquering nations or winning wars. It means the small and great triumphs of life. It means reaching a goal you set for yourself, holding firm in your discipline, standing tall in moments where others would fall. When you achieve, when you overcome, when you prove your strength. Those are the times to show love, because then your affection carries the scent of triumph, and triumph is magnetic. Think of this truth: love after failure feels like consolation. Love after victory feels like reward. When you show her tenderness after weakness, she may pity you, she may comfort you, but her respect wanes. But when you show her tenderness after strength, when you hold her after proving yourself, she feels pride, she feels admiration, she feels the fire of loyalty. She does not see your love as a plea. She sees it as a gift flowing from your power. A woman is drawn to the man who achieves. She is drawn to the man who proves himself in the arena of life, the man who carries himself like a leader, the man who conquers obstacles without complaint. And when such a man chooses to lower his guard for her, when he chooses to share his victory with her through affection, that is when her devotion deepens. Because she feels that she is tied to his strength, not his fragility. Moments of victory must be seized. Do not let them pass without anchoring them with love. When you succeed in your mission, when you rise above challenge, when you reach the heights you have been climbing, those are the moments to look at her, to show her that she is part of your triumph. Your embrace in that moment is different. Your words in that moment are different. They are wrapped in glory. They are stained with sweat. They are alive with the proof of who you are. And she will never forget them. A man who shows love only in ordinary times makes his affection ordinary. But a man who ties his affection to moments of triumph elevates it. He makes his love symbolic. He makes it unforgettable. She will not remember the countless times you whispered soft words with no power behind them. She will remember the time you stood victorious and chose her to share in the glow. That is the moment that burns into her memory. Victory magnifies love because it reveals balance. It shows that you are not so consumed by achievement that you neglect affection, and not so consumed by affection that you neglect achievement. You prove that you can conquer the outer world and still hold the inner world of the heart. That duality is rare. Many men fall to one side. They chase success but lose tenderness, or they drown in tenderness and abandon success. But the man who unites both, who achieves and then loves, becomes a figure larger than life in her eyes. Understand this. She does not want your love to feel like duty. She wants it to feel like triumph. She wants to look at you and see a man who moves through the world with power, who carries victories on his shoulders, and who chooses her as the one to share in them. She wants to feel that your affection is not the leftover scraps of a tired soul, but the golden fruit of a conquering spirit. When you achieve victory, you are at your most magnetic. Your confidence is alive, your spirit is high, your presence commands attention. That is the time to give her your affection. Because then, she ties her emotions to your strength. She associates your love with the taste of glory. Each time she remembers your affection, she also remembers your victory. And so your love does not weaken in her mind, it strengthens. But remember, victory is not only in the great battles of life. It is also in the small disciplines. It is in the morning you rise earlier than laziness. It is in the moment you refuse weakness and stand firm in principle. It is in the decision to grow, to improve, to sharpen yourself. A woman feels your victories even when they are unseen by the world. When you conquer yourself, when you master your impulses, when you show her your discipline, and then you show her your affection, she feels the power in it. Because she knows it does not come cheaply. Do not waste your victories by standing alone in them. Share them with her. Let her see that your love is not only words, not only gestures, but a reflection of your ability to rise. Hold her in the moments when you stand tallest, not when you collapse. Speak your affection when your voice carries authority, not when it trembles. Then she will believe your words. Then she will tie her loyalty to you, because she sees that your love is not fragile. It is victorious. This is why love must be tied to achievement, because achievement commands respect, and love without respect dies quickly. Show her that your love is the crown placed upon victory, not the crutch leaned upon in weakness. Show her that you give affection not to fill an emptiness, but to celebrate strength. That is when she will look at you with pride. That is when she will admire you. That is when your love will live in her memory with fire.